and Tony Orlando would know on Greatest Hits. These are from my record collection, because I never get rid of anything. The gentleman who sang those songs, a singer-songwriter, music executive, someone who was friends with Elvis Presley. Some of the songs you heard last night on this very stage. In 1973, he had the biggest song in the country, Tie a Yellow Ribbon, and had a TV variety show in 1974 to 76 with Dawn. I was a big fan of that. George Clown told me years ago, he said, "You got to meet this guy, you're going to love him." Finally, G-Day. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Orlando! Oh, so fantastic to meet you.
You humbled me twice in a row.
Right there for you. Right there.
Are we on?
You're, yeah, I'm here.
Can you hear me?
There you go.
What a welcome. Thank you so much. You know, when you get to 81 years old, you learn to appreciate that more than ever. Thank you so much for that.
We appreciate you. I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been a fan. I don't know if you saw me with these are my records from my collection. When I was buying that vinyl at the time and dropping the needle and watching you on TV.
You know what that tells me about you, Tom?
What's that?
You have absolutely no taste in it.
Oh, come on. You did my song last night. I've heard so much, even just this morning, about last night's performance.
You know, I retired last March 22nd. And I don't think I've ever been more nervous than I was last night. And there's two reasons. One, because when you're not doing it every day, it feels, do I still have this? And I'm working to a tribute to the man that I loved.
Yeah.
I wanted to be here not only for his fans, but for him. Because Elvis, truthfully, there was nobody like him.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about stardom. I'm talking about a humble, wonderful, kind, insecure, like all of us. And that's what we all relate to, is that we all know that Elvis had to handle what most of us can't handle. Would you agree with that? I mean, just think of it. What it would be like to be Elvis Presley. So one day I said to him, I said, you know, Elvis, I was just on a street corner with Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali was doing magic tricks for young kids. And he was surrounded by, I don't know, maybe 40 people on the corner of 52nd Street and Broadway in New York. And he loved to do a little hand magic. And he would do this hand magic and give thank you. I said, Elvis, you never experienced that. You live in a velvet cage with a golden jail with a diamond key. You're never outside. You don't go out and meet the people that love you like Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad was as famous visually worldwide as Elvis at the time. And he looked at me and he said, it's lonely here sometimes, Tony. And when I heard him say to admit that it's lonely here sometimes, Tony, was the first time I realized I met the man, the person. That he was no different than any of us in this room. It seems like he was, but he wasn't, right, Tom? He was really, truly just as insecure before he went on as any performer. He would come off the stage and the first thing he would say is, was I all right? Did I do good?
Yeah.
And so I wanted to come last night in my retirement to pay pay tribute to his fans that have been so loyal, and to this great entertainer who is really a kind, wonderful friend.
Take me back to how does Tony Orlando meet Elvis Presley?
Well, I met Elvis when I was working the lounges in Vegas at the Hilton Hotel. I eventually, after not 3 times we had a yellow ribbon, we moved into the main room.
Right.
But Candida and not 3 times were the first 3 incidents we had. So we were working the lounge. Who was working the lounge with us was Kenny Rogers and Lee Greenwood. Lee Greenwood was a saxophone player. He wasn't even singing at that time. So we used to take, and Elvis was in the main room. So one day I thought, I'm going to go back and sneak up the back staircase and watch his show. So I snuck up the back staircase and I see Elvis for the first time. And I hear, the thing that blew my mind was he had an operatic voice. You know, those days the microphones were terrible. They weren't like they are today. Sound systems were not like they are today. And he'd come out and he'd sing. And all I kept saying was, I'm going to quit show business. I can't sing like that. Listen to this man's voice. Because on records, you knew it was a big voice, but when you heard him live, Tom, it was like a stunning. It was like, what? It's Pavarotti. He was that big. So I always wanted to meet him. And I'm in the lounge. And I think I might have told this story last night, so I'll just repeat it for somebody who wasn't here. I'm in the lounge, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning. So what we would do would be Kenny, me at 7, Kenny at 8, me back at 9, Kenny at 10, all the way up until 6 in the morning. 6 in the morning in Vegas, the lights coming through the window and you're about to die, right? And I'm looking out at the audience, and it sat 600 people in the lounge. It wasn't small. And I only had one guy there. And the one guy that was listening to my show was the maitre d'. And his head was like this. So I went along with it, and I did my whole show for the maitre d', like this. Elvis heard about it. He heard about it from Vernon. Vernon used to come to see my show, his dad. So he said, Elvis, Tony Orlando was working to one sleeping guy last night. So I'm on the stage now. Let's say it's 10 o'clock show. After his show, 11 o'clock. And the place is packed. And I could see everybody turn around. You see that? Just turn around. You see that? How white that is? You see that shadow on the wall? That's what I saw in peripheral vision. I saw white greatness to my right. And I thought, no. And I look over, and there he is, and he walks across the stage because he felt sorry for me. So he walks across the stage, he comes up to the microphone, and I swear this is true. He went, thank you very much. And he walked across, and he didn't know that there was no stage left. That stage left was the bar. So I look over to him and I go, all right, buddy, now what are you going to do? I knew I had him. I had the great Elvis Presley where I wanted him, where he couldn't escape, where he couldn't leave, and he had to do everything I asked him to do. And he did. He came back, and from that day on, we became friends. And then every morning after that, I would have breakfast with Vernon, and Vernon would give me advice. Don't give too many comps. Save your money. Make sure you get a good lawyer. Only keep an accountant for 5 years. Get rid of him after 5 years. All kinds of advice he would give me. And I became friends with Vernon first, and then Elvis. And then I actually was friends with Chips Moments. Anybody in here know Chips Moments? So Chips Moments produced Elvis's records. And I said to Elvis, I said, you know, what do you think of Chips? He said, well, you know what happened. career was kind of like just starting to go a little bit down. And Chips came into the picture, and Chips was producing B.J. Thomas, Willie Nelson, Willie Jennings, Johnny Cash.
Dusty Springfield.
Huh?
Yeah, Dusty Springfield.
Dusty Springfield. So he was hot as a pistol, and he goes in and cuts Elvis, and Elvis had Suspicious Minds, Kentucky Rain, In the Ghetto. That was all because of Chips Moman. So I got to know Elvis creatively in the studio because the girl who wrote Candida married Chips Moman. Tony Wine, who wrote Candida for us, was his wife. Yeah. And so there was this close connection with people, but I never got to get friendly with Elvis until I finally made it to the main room in the Hilton, where I had the same bed he had. Ladies. I'll repeat that. I slept in the same bed. Now that's making it. And that room that was up on the top, the famous room that was on the top of the roof of the Hilton, anybody who worked the main room, that was their room. So when I would come in, let's say he finished his last show, I would come to visit him in the dressing room, or when I closed, he'd come to visit me. So one night, I said, hey Elvis, I got a question for you. Who's your favorite singer? Does anybody know the answer to this? Here's what he said to me. Roy Hamilton. He said, if you listen, hear that whistle and stand up. Don't let go, don't let go. Baby, it's time to rock. Don't let go, don't let go. Ooh, that feeling is killing me. Oh, shucks, hold tight, don't let go. Will you have? I wanna. And he looks at me and says, now you see why he was my favorite singer. He was literally channeling Roy Hamilton. But here's the beauty of that story. And this is what Elvis was made of. To every Elvis fan, remember this. Elvis paid for his funeral. Roy Hamilton's funeral was paid for by Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley went to Roy Hamilton's bedside, his deathbed, with Chips Moman. The two of them sat next to him. And I said, Elvis, you paid for his funeral. He said, he made me who I am. I had to pay for it. So when you listen to Elvis, just for the sake of giving Roy the same tribute that Elvis gave Roy, listen to Roy Hamilton. Listen to his performance on You'll Never Walk Alone. That was his first big hit record, Roy Hamilton. And you'll hear what inspired Elvis. Many people inspired Elvis, but he specifically, I want all the fans to know, because I know Elvis would want me to tell you that it was Roy Hamilton.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I talked about how you had the #1 song in the world in 1973. What did you learn when that hit exploded? You must have thought about things differently. You're in that little showroom, all of a sudden, like you said, you're in the big room. You must have then started really understanding what someone like Elvis had been going through since he was 21, 22 years old. And it was, at least you were older and you understood showbiz by that time.
Honestly, I didn't get Elvis's, as I said, just of fame until after he died. I didn't really understand how lonely he was. And I don't think one hit record makes a difference. I don't care if you sell 10 even 10 records. But what Young Ribbon did do for me is I got a call from another legend when that record became a hit. had never met Bob. And I get this phone call. He said, the guy says, "Hi, this is Bob Yellow Ribbon Hope." I said, "Really? Well, this is Frank. I don't believe you should not." So he goes, "Tony," he goes, "I love this new record you have, a tie yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. We're going to welcome home our POWs from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. There'll be 500 of them on the 50-yard line. There'll be 70,000 people at the Cotton Bowl. Would you open the show for me?" And I realized it was really him. And I said, "I would be humbled. Are you kidding? This is really you?" "Yeah." I said, "Mr. Hope, when is this?" He said, "Next Thursday." I said, "Mr. Hope, Yellow Ribbon has only been out 2 weeks. They won't know Yellow Ribbon." He said, "Let me tell you something, Tony Orlando. You're talking to Bob Hope. By the time you get to Dallas, Texas, it'll be number 1 in Dallas." He had every radio station making it number 1, right? So I get there, and there's 70,000 people, Tom, 70,000 people. The first time me and Telma and Joyce, Dawn, Telma and Joyce, we ever sang this song in our lives, live. And I look out, and I see on the 50-yard line, 500 plus of the bravest men I had ever met. And you know, those people were tortured. And they were only home 2 weeks. Their eyes hadn't even adjusted to daylight yet. And I look out, and I hear, this is the truth, 70,000 people singing the chorus, the title. And I look out, and I see all 500 of those POWs singing, just that one line. Except one POW sat like this the whole time I was on stage. It was driving me crazy. What did I say? Because as you can see, I have a tendency of talking a lot. And he's talking down, and he looked angry to me. And I thought, I must have said something that set this guy off. So I walked off stage and I said, "Mr. Hope, did you see that one POW with his head down? Did I say something that upset him?" He goes, "Tony, go ask him." Okay. I said, "Excuse me, sir. I started the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. My name's Tony Orlando. I had that song, Tie Yellow Ribbon. Did I upset you? I noticed you weren't clapping your hands. You weren't singing along like the rest of your buddies." He goes, "Oh, Tony, I'm so sorry. Allow me to introduce myself to you. My name is John McCain. They pulled my shoulders out of socket. I can't clap my hands. But what you didn't understand was I was looking at my big toe, keeping time to that great song." From that day on, I said, "Dear God in heaven, if I'm blessed with any success from here this day forward, I want to make sure that I do everything I can to raise money for veterans from that day on." I reunion with these guys. I have the honor of having a reunion with those guys every year since that day. And here's what it is. Here's the answer to your question the long way around. I realized that God gave me a reason to serve my country. I was 4F in the Vietnam War. I went to get to the, they put you through, look at your ears, look at everywhere, And they said, "Tony, you're 4F, meaning you can't be in the service." I said, "Wait a minute. My whole family was in service. I'm embarrassed. What do you mean?" "No." I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, you have a narrow auditory canal." I said, "Well, so what is that?" "It means that you won't be able to hear a command." "What? You're saying I have bad ears?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm a singer." He said, "You must be a bad one." And say the truth, he was right. But the truth is, this is a blessing. What we're doing here in the Tom, and what this place allows us to do, is to share a time in our lives and make us closer family, make us better friends. You know, that's what this is. But I did put this because we all have one thing in common here, like we do in church. You know, when we're in church, we look up to one man, and we give thanks to that man. And when we're on earth, we still give thanks to that man. And we should give thanks to that same man for giving us that man.
One more thing. You had a friend that I shared, GK, George Klein. And he told me years ago, he said, you gotta meet Tony Arlando. He said, you guys would get along great. And I finally get that to come true. And when you used to appear on Elvis Radio, he would always ask you about one moment. And that was the moment that you lit a candle. Can you please share?
It's not a happy moment.
But it's a moment.
So please forgive me for telling the story. But it is, Tom's right. It is an amazing story I'm about to tell you. So, does everybody here remember Freddie Prinze? So, Freddie Prinze was 10 years younger than me. He was like my younger brother. And when Freddie died, he died in my arms. And I never saw anybody die. It hit me so badly that I ended up having a breakdown. Went to the hospital, so forth. So there's a rule in New York called a 72-hour commitment. When you go into a hospital like that, you must stay in that hospital for 72 hours. Right? So I come out, it was the longest 72 hours I had had in my life. I'm in paper clothes, so I would kill myself. I'm behind bars, like I'm in jail. This was a hospital. The same hospital that Marilyn Monroe went to when she had her breakdown. I didn't know what to expect. I come out beaten, thought it was over, and I get a call from, I'm name dropping now, but it's important to share this with you, Frank Sinatra. And Frank Sinatra says, Tony, you've been through hell. I want you to stay at my place at the Waldorf Towers. I have an apartment there. Recuperate there as long as you want. Here I am in Frank Sinatra's apartment. 3333 Waldorf Astoria apartment building. I'm watching television and I see one of the Red West talking in an interview. Now, Elvis and I had the same publicist. His name was Frank Lieberman. Frank and I and Elvis shared that relationship. I'm watching Red West and I turned to Frank and I said, Frank, call Elvis right now. Why? I said, I think he's on drugs. Now, it hadn't been known that he was having pharmaceutical drugs for pain, for a lot of things. People take them all the time. I said, but he's addicted. Frank said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm telling you, I see a similarity because I've been through this. Get him on the phone. This was the 15th. We all know what the 15th was? The night before he passes, right? And I'm getting this feeling. I got to get a hold of him. Now, Frank had a number where Elvis would always answer. And you had that number. Okay. And it rang. So I started calling at 10 o'clock. And it rang. And it rang. And it rang. I said, I'm going to St. Patrick's Cathedral. Tony, it's closed. You can't get in. Do it tomorrow morning. What do you want? I said, I'm going to go pray for Priscilla, for Lisa, and for Elvis. Something is not right. Now, George always wanted me to tell this story, and forgive me because it's not a happy one. But it's so unbelievable it must be told. So I get up at 7 o'clock, and for singers, 7 o'clock. They only see 7 o'clock one time a day, and it's never a.m., right? But I got up at 7 in the morning, and I walk 1 block to St. Patrick's Cathedral. Now remember, in those days, I was very recognizable. 36 million people a week watch that television show. Every Wednesday night. So I'm walking, hey Tony, hey Tony, hey Tony. I'm just walking straight. I'm going, I gotta go pray for Elvis. I walk in, I light 3 candles. Lisa, Priscilla, Elvis. I get on my knees and I pray. And I never prayed so hard in my life. I said, Lord, make me wrong. Please make me wrong. But protect me. Whatever you do. I get back up on my feet. I go back, get up on the elevator to the 33rd floor. I didn't have a key. I had to knock on the door, forgot the key. My wife then opens the door. She says, Tony, sit down. They just found Elvis. He died this morning. Somehow, I got this premonition. Now, I've looked at this 2 different ways, Tom. One, should I ever tell the story? And George made me tell the story in the air. I said, George, I don't want to tell this story. It's too sad. He goes, no, Tony. He says, God was talking to you. Have you learned to listen to God, Tony? Because from that day on, when I hear God talk to me like that, trust me, I know it's Him. So what did that do for me? Elvis opened the door to meet God. Why? I say that? I went to church. I prayed for them. I sensed something holy. I felt something very important spiritually. Prior to that, I wasn't even sure if there was a God. I was walking blind. Trust me. Elvis knew it because the greatest album he ever made was like you heard them last night, singing those gospel songs last night. That's what he loved the most. That's what he lived for. You know that, Tom. It was those great gospel hymns. And you got one last night like I've never heard before. It was unbelievable. You agree? So, here's what I want to share with all of you. If you ever get that feeling in your body for somebody or someone, imagine how I would have felt if I didn't take that walk to the TV room. Imagine if I ignored my feelings about Elvis. That was the greatest moment of friendship I ever had with him. That was the one time I actually did something for him. I prayed that he enter the gates of heaven and have the angels sing every one of his songs as he entered. Horns are blowing and having Jesus Christ say to him, no, you have never been cruel. Don't be cruel. You've done nothing but bring me to people in your song. And with that, God bless all of you. God bless Elvis. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
An Elvis Presley imitation and just do a thank you very much for me.